Briefly, I'll be speaking on complete obedience. Complete obedience. Let's check the book of Second Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 6. Okay, let's start from Second Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 5. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Now, let's now check verse 6. And having a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. The word fulfilled there is complete. So you can only revenge disobedience when your own obedience is complete. That's why sometimes most of us we dabble into certain spiritual things. We try to combat with certain wicked spiritual forces, and we discover that our efforts seems to be fruitless. We try to combat with certain dark forces, and we discover that at the end of the day, it appears as if instead of winning those dark forces, they are the one influencing our lives. The problem you have is not that God is not faithful. The problem you have is that your obedience is not complete. You cannot be given the power to avenge disobedience or except your own obedience is complete. Now, what does it mean to have a complete obedience? Complete obedience comes on the strength of the series of record of obedience you have had with God. Do you have a record of obedience with God? Now, for you to have a complete obedience, you must live a life of obedience to God. Not that you obey God yesterday, today you disobey, you obey. No. A man that will have a complete obedience will live perpetually before God in obedience. He will live the life of obedience constantly before the Lord. Many of us don't know. You see, what happens is obedience, there's a measure for obedience in the spirit. Are you there? So it's not enough to say I used to obey God. Is your obedience complete? Until that measure for obedience in the spirit is filled, your obedience is not complete. So it is not enough to say I'm obeying God. Is your measure of obedience, is it full? So as we continue to obey God, as we continue to make obedience our lifestyle, gradually that measure, that spiritual gauge for obedience begins to get fuller and fuller until it gets to the brim. And the moment it gets to the brim, of course, now you will be empowered to challenge all disobedience. Now, the word disobedience there can mean spiritual forces. It can mean evil thoughts. Are you there? It can mean wicked princes in the heavenly realms. Are you there? It can mean, immoral thought. It can mean carnality. So there are certain weakness that you have spoken to, you have declared to, but they are still there in your life. You said, this will stop. In Jesus' name, it will stop, but they are still there. There are certain things you have commanded to go, but they have not gone. There are certain thoughts that when they come to your heart, they hold you, and it's like you want to commit sin, you command it to go, it's not going. So what is happening? Why are they not going? Are you not calling the name of Jesus? Of course you are calling it. Why is it not going? It's because your obedience is not complete. That's what the Bible is saying. Until your obedience is complete, there are certain things you cannot command.